What is up, Southeast Michigan podcast? We are back. Nice little week off, but we are back. The Southeast Michigan podcast is free and available wherever you watch or listen. So if you could be so kind, rate us 5 stars on the audio versions and click the bell and smash the subscribe button on YouTube. So, episode 49 here. If you haven't noticed already, I've kind of rebranded here a little bit. We updated the logo on the socials. Nice little new intro there. And we're back. Episode 49. This episode is more new, like college news in general. We're going to talk Michigan sports, of course, and football. But this is more kind of just like the landscape in a way. I mean, there's a couple stories. There's going to be a lot of articles we're going to read today. And this is kind of like a prelude into what's going to happen for episode 50. Episode 50 is going to be, dropping sometime later this week. I'm going to be recording tomorrow night with some of my boys. And it's going to be a little something different than your, weekly podcast here, but excited to do it with my buddy Corey and Jeff. So stay tuned for that. But here, episode 49, we'll tackle right now. Okay? So starting out on segment 1, you know how we roll, news and notes, kind of right off the get. We're going to read an article coming out of East Lansing, and nothing is really here. I'm, doing breaking news or anything or something that happened overnight. This has happened over the last couple weeks, and we're gonna kind of take a look back at some of the Connor Stallion stuff, even because it's gonna kind of piggyback off of what we chit chat about regarding one of these articles, and then of course segment 1 will close out with the transfer portal. And then segment 2, we're going to get into my top 5 questions about Michigan football heading into summer. So that's going to pretty much round us out. So let's get into segment 1 here. The news and notes side, we're going to step over here to the web browser, and we're going to be taking a look at this article over here from, I believe this is USA Today. This was... I'm going to refresh this. Right now it says 22 hours ago, but this story is a little older than that. This was dropped 2 days ago by Taylor Jones. So let's get into this. So if you are watching video-wise, you see the article headline here, could we see corporate logos on college football fields in the future? The commercialization of college athletics has grown over recent years due to the popularity of NIL. Corporate involvement could step forward by purchasing ad space on college fields. According to a report by Blake Topmeyer and Steve Berkowitz of USA Today Sports, a committee with representatives from all 3 NCAA divisions will meet on June 6 to introduce a proposal that could change the organization's strict limits on corporate logo use on college athletic fields. Several SC athletic directors were asked about the change during this week's SC spring meetings, including Florida's Scott Strickland, who appears to be open to the change. That's an obvious revenue stream that has not been there in the past, Strickland said. The pro sports are putting patches on their jerseys. That doesn't seem like something that's crazy for us to consider these days. The NCAA and Power 5 conferences reached a deal last week, which will allow programs to share revenue with its student athletes. USA Today reports that the NCAA would fund the damages pool over a 10-year period, and schools would begin sharing future revenues with athletes. More than half of the money from the damages pool would come from reductions in the NCAA's distributions to all Division I schools and conferences. The damages of this new agreement is expected to cost programs a combined $2.8 million, which would pay current athletes as well as former athletes who were once prohibited from earning money due to past NCAA policies. Under this proposal, student athletes would still have the opportunity to earn compensation through NIL. Corporations were not previously allowed to buy ad space on fields, with limitations being given to sponsors of bowl games and neutral site games. Which corporations could grace Pat Dye Field in the future? So there is Article 1. And so let me know what you guys feel about that with the whole jersey patches and logos. I don't really watch the NBA, and I know the NBA was like really kind of like the first league to open that doorway. And I know MLB is starting to do it. And quite frankly, I know when you buy some, it depends on what tier you're buying, but I know some Detroit Tigers jerseys that I looked at to purchasing for myself. Excuse me. There's that Meyer patch that's on the arm sleeve, and while it's there, you don't really pay attention to it. But then again, it's like just feel like it's a bumper sticker that you can never get off, and to me, it's just kind of like whatever, regarding if Michigan's football field ever sees a logo on it, I mean, I guess to me it's really not bothersome. I just I don't know, depends on what it would be. What would be on the field. I just kind of like how it's just clean. There's no logos there. Um, I don't know. We'll have to see. It's something I really honestly don't pay a whole lot of attention to. Um, at least when I'm at college sports, because it's just out of sight, out of mind. But when you're obviously at a pro stadium, pro arena, everything's just kind of like cluttered everywhere. But I don't know. Let me know what you guys think, and hit me up on either the socials. What are your thoughts about that article? What college football is slowly turning into semi-pro NFL, or another league of the NFL rather. But yeah, so I figure I'd read that and hopefully hear from you guys and what you guys think about it. Let's move on to the next one. Um, this one again is coming out of East Lansing. This part of the show here is going to probably be the most length, and we'll see what happens. Let's see what happens here, because this is something that's in the rearview mirror. It's never gone away, and we have not got any clear answers or anything like that. And it's been kind of put on the back burner, and it's just been swept on the rug, and we're going to hear from it soon. You think. Right here, though, if you're watching again here on on the screen, the article headline, MSU AD Alan Holler says Connor Stalions' investigation could impact relationship with CMU, Central Michigan. This is by Graham Couch from the Lansing State Journal. East Lansing, nearly 9 months later, there has been no resolution in the investigation into whether the man who appeared to be former Michigan football staffer Connor Stalions was on Central Michigan's sideline during their game at Michigan State last September 1st. And if it was indeed him, how he got there. Stalions resigned from Jim Harbaugh's staff in late November amid an NCAA investigation into allegations he was at the center of a sign stealing scandal. Shortly thereafter, the NCAA joined Central Michigan's investigation into whether Stalions was on the Chippewa sideline in CMU gear during the MSU game, presumably scouting the Spartan signs. In the months since, neither CMU nor the NCAA has said a word about the findings of that investigation, not publicly nor to MSU Athletic Director Alan Haller, who made it clear during an interview last Thursday that he was disappointed by that, though he chose his words carefully. Now, again, when this is last Thursday, this is like a couple weeks ago. This is probably about 15 days old here. MSU is scheduled to, oh, here we go. I skipped a line. My bad. So he said, chose his words carefully. Quote, I'm interested in the outcome of the investigation, and it could impact our relationship with Central Michigan, Haller said. MSU is scheduled to play CMU in football 2027 and then again in 2030. So there is a very brief piece there, but it's worth reading because, again, this Connor Stalions thing has not gone away. And I when this happened, when you saw Stalions on the sidelines, um, that happened in September. We didn't hear about the sign stealing thing a couple months later, about a month and a half later, and didn't hear an answer. The Central Michigan was looking into it. Jim McElwain, head coach, was looking into it. Even the card that, or the document that had all the press pass people on it was released, and you figure at this point, you can process of elimination everybody on that list. Was that you? No, that's not him. Is that, no, that's not him. That's not him. Who is this guy? And again, if it is Connor Stalions, it is absolutely baffling, because he's obviously hasn't said anything other than this is my resignation from his attorney, and that it's just perplexing. Now there's a couple more articles I want to read to kind of follow up on this. Now this was 5 months ago, so we're kind of taking a step back here, right? But again, this is going to show a little bit more context to just today's episode in general. So let me head and pop this up here again on your screen for you. So again, we are over here at US. Where is this at? This is at College Football Network. This is by Anthony Miller. So this headline was, "Where is Connor Stalions now? Updates on Michigan's coach at the center of the sign stealing scandal." The college football world witnessed one of the most eye-opening scandals in recent memory involving the Michigan Wolverines football program. Its sign-stealing controversy made waves throughout the country, and changes were made to Michigan's coaching staff. One man was in the middle of it all, Connor Stalions. Stalions was heavily involved in the scandal, and his actions cost him the job at Michigan. So where is he now? Let's review his involvement and what he has been up to since the incident. More on the Connor Stalions update. Stalions joined the Michigan coaching staff in 2022 as a football analyst. He was asked to be on the sidelines on game days to assist defensive coordinator Jesse Minner and other coaches. Before taking the analyst job, he was a team volunteer and a former Marine Corps officer. Sources told ESPN that Stalions bought tickets for over 35 games at 17 stadiums. Those games mostly consisted of teams Michigan would be playing and teams that would be in the playoffs. The network was also told that Stalions paid a former Division III player and coach to attend Big Ten games and video the sidelines. Central Michigan launched an investigation into whether Stalions was on the sidelines during the season opening game against Michigan State. Experts examined images and told ESPN it's highly likely that Stalions and the man in the image at the Central Michigan game are the same person. In November, Stalions resigned from Michigan as the investigation was going on. He released a statement saying he left the school not to be a distraction to the team. The investigation resulted in the Wolverines head coach Jim Harbaugh being suspended for the last 3 games of the regular season. Michigan also fired linebackers coach Chris Partridge for trying to destroy evidence as part of the investigation. Since the investigation concluded, the general public has not heard from Stalions often. There was a possible public appearance from Stalions on the Barstool's pregame show before the Ohio State-Michigan game, where he walked up on stage and handed a note to Barstool founder and owner Dave Portnoy. Stalions has not been heard of outside of that event and has been quiet since. His LinkedIn was deleted shortly after the investigation happened. It is not known if he will ever have a chance to get back on Michigan's sidelines in a college football game. What is known is that Stalions changed the way teams prepare for Michigan. The Alabama Crimson Tide has players watching film together in position groups that are not allowed to watch iPads. Michigan will take on Alabama in the college football playoff at the Rose Bowl Monday at 5 Eastern. So again, this article was, right before the Rose. Now, to clear up some things here on this article, at least, because obviously this story was ever updating, and I remember, I think in 1 week back in the fall when this dropped, I think we did 3 episodes in 1 week because we would talk about it, and then an hour later, Pete Thamel or Bruce Feldman or somebody is just dropping something. Where was it at? Where was the first part? Oh, the Chris Partridge thing. So we're gonna get into. I don't know if I have that article up, but Chris Partridge was fired from the University of Michigan, not for destroying evidence, but it was um, in lengthy terms. Basically, just didn't. He was speaking about uh, the whole situation to the publicly when he wasn't supposed to. It's a whole bunch of lingo jango. I don't have that article up on me right now, but basically he got on a letter and basically said, for you breaking the protocol, whatever, that's why you're not allowed to coach. So that was one of the things that was ended up being cleared up. Next was the Alabama Crimson Tide players not using iPads. The interesting thing about how last season went down is one, Michigan had a computer system hack that was not related to Matt Weiss nor this case that we were told by the authorities back in August. Then you had the program, which the name I don't remember, but there was a program that was uh, on all the teams' iPads or certain teams' iPads that would have all their practice footage on it, blah blah blah. iPads were that system was like hacked around December-ish or something, or right before the bowl game, and so that created suspicion. But again, Michigan had the same problem, so they didn't use iPads either, and so I want to say that kind of led to the road where there was rumors again, people could dispute it or not. Rumors that it was Ohio State that was hacking the iPads. I don't remember that part for sure, but I remember it had nothing to do with Michigan. Michigan had the same problem, and so basically the iPads were just kind of thrown out the window. But it wasn't related to Michigan stealing signs or anything like that. Now let's bounce over here to this one from ABC News. This was from November 3rd by Adam Rittenberg. So this one is Michigan football analyst Connor Stalions resigns amid investigation. So this, again, piggybacks off of the said resignation. Connor Stalions, the Michigan football analyst at the center of the NCAA's investigation into legal off-campus scouting and signal stealing, resigned from his position Friday, the school announced. Stalions, who officially joined Michigan staff in 2022 but had been around the program for several years, was suspended with pay by the school October 20th, pending the outcome of the investigation. A source initially told ESPN that Stalions had been fired before Michigan later announced Friday that he had resigned. In a statement, the university said it was unable to comment further regarding the personal matter. Both Stalions and his attorney issued statements to The Athletic on Friday night, saying in part that his decision to resign was to keep from being a distraction of the team, which is unbeaten, 8-0, and hosts Purdue on Saturday. I love the University of Michigan and its football program, Stalions told The Athletic, and I am extremely grateful for the opportunity I've had to work with the incredible student athletes. Coach Jim Harbaugh and the other coaches that have been a part of the Michigan football family during my tenure. I do not want to be a distraction from what I hope to be a championship run for the team, and I will continue to cheer them on. His attorney, Brad Beckworth, added in part, Connor also wants to make it clear that, to his knowledge, neither Coach Harbaugh nor any other coach or staff member told anyone to break any rules or were aware of improper conduct regarding the recent allegations of advanced scouting. According to the source, Stalions did not attend a meeting Friday with Michigan officials, possibly on advice of counsel. Sources are unsure whether he will cooperate with the NCAA investigation, which is examining whether Stalions and Michigan orchestrated in-person scouting of Michigan's future opponents, violating the rule established in 1994. A graduate of the United States Naval Academy and a longtime Michigan fan, Stalions earned a salary of $55,000 and spent games on Michigan's sideline, often consulting with defensive coordinator Jesse Minter and other coaches. According to a LinkedIn page he recently deleted, Stalions is a former officer in the Marine Corps and worked with Michigan as a volunteer for several years before joining the staff in 2022. According to ESPN sources, Stalions purchased tickets to more than 35 games at 17 stadiums around the country involving Michigan opponents in the Big Ten and potential college football playoff opponents. A former Division III player and coach told ESPN's Dan Murphy that Stalions had paid him several $100s to attend 3 Big Ten games involving future Michigan opponents and record their sidelines on his smartphone. ESPN first reported Stalions' involvement in the NCAA probe, and sources told ESPN's Pete Thamel and Mark Schlabach that NCAA enforcement staff sought access to Stalions' computer as part of its investigation. Central Michigan said Tuesday, it is investigating a man who resembles Stalions who appeared in its bench area for the September 1st opener at Michigan State after learning of the images of a man late Monday. The man wore team-issued gear and sunglasses for a night game as well as one of the 50 bench passes given to non-players for games. Central Michigan and Jim McElwain said following the Tuesday's game against Northern Illinois that the school officials are aware of a picture floating around with the sign stealer guy and doing everything they can to get the bottom of it. CMU had not concluded its investigation as of Friday, an official told ESPN. Right here, this is kind of piggybacking off that last article where it says highly likely it was him due to facial recognition. So Anil Jain, a professor in the Department of Computer Science and Engineering at Michigan State, of course, and a nationally recognized facial recognition expert, believes it's highly likely that the images of the man wearing sunglasses and a hat on the Central Michigan sideline and a photo of Stalions on the Michigan sideline are the same person. At ESPN's request, Jane and Stephen Gross, a PhD student, used a state-of-the-art commercial face recognition system to compare the two photographs. The system compared the images based on several facial characteristics. Jane said that they are trade secrets to provide a similarity score in the range of 0 to 1. The higher the similarity score, the more likely it is the two faces being compared are the same person. Jane said that the system produced a similarity score of 0.6 when comparing the two photographs. To validate that score, Jane and Gross compared Stalions' photo to a database of more than 4,500 photos of white males. The reason why it's 0.6 is because there's a disguise, Jane told ESPN. If I take an identical photo, it'd be 1. Even changes in pose, illumination, expression, sunglasses, the match will never be perfect. Based on this analysis, the two images are of the same person with high confidence. Harbaugh, in a statement October 19th, denied any knowledge of illegal scouting or signal stealing and said he has never directed anyone on his staff to engage in off-campus scouting. Harbaugh said that he and his staff would cooperate with the investigation. Big Ten Commissioner Tony Petitti, attending the league's field hockey tournament Friday at Michigan, met with University President Santa Ono, according to sources. The Big Ten sportsmanship policy gives Petitti the authority to investigate and discipline Michigan before the lengthy NCAA investigation and infractions process would conclude. Big Ten coaches and athletic directors on recent calls have urged Petitti to discipline Michigan, but thus far no action has been taken. So there you go. There is, again, kind of a look back into where we're at. If you've been listening to me since football season last year, I've told you, if Jim Harbaugh knew the length of this scope of whatever was going on, I would walk away from Michigan football. But every single article that we've come across on this show and what are out there on the internet, Jim Harbaugh had no knowledge. Now again, we've mentioned it before. He's the king of the castle. He's got the keys of the city. It's his program, and whether he has a logical, realistic ability to watch over 100% of his program, he's responsible. With the whole counter-Stalions thing, there's going to be one more article we read here. This one is kind of off the Purdue game that happened. But with this whole situation being like borderline gray area, let's just get into the article. We'll read. We'll dissect. We'll go into deeper once we. Okay, so we technically have two more articles. This one is going to be about Purdue and Ryan Walters, and the next one is going to be about the Division III player or Division III coach that Connor apparently had in contact with. Okay, so here we go. Purdue coach Ryan Walters says school has evidence of Michigan scouting. This one again was by Adam Rittenberg on ABC News, November 3rd. So Purdue coach Ryan Walters, whose team visits number 3 Michigan on Saturday, said his school has evidence the Wolverines scouted the Boilermakers games earlier this season. The NCAA is investigating Michigan for off-campus scouting and sign stealing. Michigan staff member Connor Stalions is at the center of the probe, according to sources, and has been suspended by the school with pay. pending the outcome of the investigation. Sources told ESPN's Pete Thamel and Mark Schlabach that there are records of Stalions purchasing tickets to games featuring 12 of Michigan's 13 Big Ten opponents over the past 3 years. It's unfortunate, Walter said Thursday night on his radio show. What's crazy is they weren't allegations. It happened. There's video evidence. There's ticket purchases and sales that you can backtrack. We know for a fact that they were at a number of our games, so we've had to teach our guys a new language in terms of signals. Some signals. Big Ten coaches held a call Wednesday with League Commissioner Tony Petitti, expressed their concerns about Michigan's alleged off-campus scouting, which is prohibited by NCAA rules, and its impact on games. Sources told Thamel that a large majority of coaches expressed their frustrations to Petitti and urged him to act, a message echoed in part by several athletic directors during a video call with Petitti on Thursday. Although the NCAA's timeline for investigations and an infractions ruling would stretch well beyond the 2023 season, Petitti has the authority to investigate and impose discipline on Michigan from the Big Ten sportsmanship policy. Petitti is scheduled to be in Ann Arbor on Friday for the Big Ten field hockey tournament. A source said Petitti will likely meet with Michigan's president Santa Ono, which of course he did. Coaches have generally avoided publicly discussing the Michigan allegations and investigation. Walters said Purdue's evidence of Michigan activities has caused changes in the preparations of Saturday's game. We will operate differently offensively, Walters said. You might see us in the huddle for the first time this season. It is what it is. We're excited to go play. So there is that article. Now, again, with the whole, I'm going to repeat this. I've said this a million times already. There's video evidence, right? And I know this is an investigation, so a lot, probably everything's been handed over for the investigators to look at, blah, blah, blah. But everything that's been leaked, we haven't had one video leak of Connor's cronies in the stands. So we know that he had purchased tickets on roughly the 50-yard line on both sides of the field and allegedly sent people there to record coaches and the signs with smartphones. And there's video evidence of that. I would still love to see the evidence of this. Whether the camera is on the concession concourse, whether it's at top of the wall, top of the press box, what is it? Again, assuming Michigan has got the biggest stadium, right? Get over 710,000 people. Let's say you're at Purdue, who's got, was that 30, 40? Maybe even less than that. I'm not a dig. I have no idea. But let's say he's at West Lafayette. You can tell me that the security camera footage can show those people holding up a cell phone amongst all those people, and maybe you can, maybe you can't. But I'd just love to see it. That's like the smoking gun to me. I don't know why. That just feels like it. But again, this is the gray area where, of course, I don't condone it, of course, but these people here are like, I just wish it never happened, and it's just so weird that this is how they do it, because Connor, how he got into this thing was watching TV footage and kind of brought it in on like his resume. It's like, hey, this is blah blah blah, boom, okay. I guess there's not much else I can really say that I haven't already said last year, but I wanted to read these again because of what Michigan State's athletic director said, and it's seriously, it's very, very weird that we haven't had any public comment on the whole Central Michigan sideline thing. To me, the picture or that man standing on the sideline is without a doubt Connor Stalions. Let me pull up the pictures again, and we'll look at it. So Connor Stalions, CMU. And then we'll go Connor Stalions, Michigan. So let's see here. Let's pull this up. So let's see here. Turn you on. All right. So right here, this is Connor Stalions, obviously standing right by Jim Harbaugh at the Ohio State Michigan game in 2022, right? You see, he's got the goatee, got the little chin strap, kind of like how I do, and you got the whole thing going on around the side of his face, right? The way his mouth, his lips are agape there. Now look at the one here at Central Michigan. I don't know how that's not that guy. Now, again, it is extremely interesting. Like this dude went through the length of wearing a wig. It looks like in the shots, sunglasses to a game that started not necessarily at night. It was the sun was setting. It was September still. It's still stayed longer days, right? Um, and Jim McElwain, the coaches, they're walking right by him. I mean, he's within spitting distance. And in some of the video, he is seen very openly talking, whether that's to himself, to another coaching staff member, a player. He's got he's got a clipboard with paperwork on it. He's got the pass hanging from his neck, and it's crazy. Like in today's world with our technology, we still can't like find a part of that game where we can zoom in on the pass to see if it has a name on it. I know the Michigan ones will, I don't know if it's for just the recruits or for media, but I know that when you go to the games, you see some the high school prospects that are on visit. They have that pass and it has their name in big bold black letters. I think it was the one of the games in 2022 I was at. It might have been earlier in the year. I remember seeing tight end Zach Marshall when he was still a recruit. It was right. He walked right by our tailgate and he had the pass over his neck. But like on here, like we can't zoom in and still see anything. Whether it would say Connor or not, it would say Joe Schmo. But this is all. This is all to me is just again baffling. I don't want to keep repeating myself, but that's where we're at. So again, want to see the the footage, and I want to see anything on the concourse, so stadium concourse, and he's always on Michigan sideline. So we're not even looking for Connor at these away games. I guess not all the time. Um, Michigan didn't need to scout every opponent. They don't need to scout Bowling Green. They don't need to scout Rutgers. We do know again. I'll repeat this too. We do know that Rutgers, Purdue, and Ohio State were sharing Michigan signals years ago. I believe under Don Brown. So I'm not saying ignore what Michigan did. We gotta take these guys down with us too, right? They're doing you know illegal things as well. Ohio State, maybe it was seen more of a heroic gesture, but like Ohio State contacted TCU 2 seasons ago for that Fiesta Bowl and says, "Hey, this is the stuff that Michigan's doing." Blah blah blah. Apparently, TCU changed their signs up or created dummy ones, and so that kind of also gets into the contradictory territory where Ryan Walters is complaining that he has to teach his team a whole new language in less than a week. They got a huddle. Michigan State's players' health and safety are at risk. All these things that are like you have to jump through hoops to fix and correct and audible and adapt before the games. But then sitting over here, TCU can apparently just recreate the wheel or throw a bunch of wrinkles in there in 2 weeks time. Again, this should be a 30 for 30. We need a book on this. I don't know what's going to happen next. I don't. I mean, who knows, right? We don't know, and we still haven't got any answers. And it's just, I know a lot of the rival fan bases are getting frustrated because it's like, we're going past spring ball now. We're going in the summer. 2024 season's about to start, and nothing. But we all knew that at least the science seal investigation would carry on, and like that article, one of the articles we just read said well beyond 2023. And obviously, Tony Petitti was pressured enough by other athletic directors and personnel that he had to suspend Jim Harbaugh for the final 3 regular season games. It was basically a part where Jim Harbaugh was like going to be able to just kind of get the pass to finish out the year, but Tony Petitti suspended him when he was 30,000 feet in the air, headed to Happy Valley, and the rest is history. So we got one more here regarding the whole Connor thing, and this is that former Division III coach. So this was from CBS Sports. This was on October 27th. So this was literally just a week into this. And I got to be honest, when I was looking back, because I was very curious myself, I went back on Google, Bing, whatever, and I was like, Connor Stalions update. There was literally nothing for 2024. There was maybe something in January, but that was it. And that was because Connor Stalions had tweeted a GIF of somebody doing this, like a fist pump after the conclusion of the Natty, or was it the Rose Bowl? Either way, it was like the last time we heard from him. So he's on Twitter. There's a Twitter account on there, not very active, but we haven't heard literally anything. So I understand the frustration on the rival side. And if I was a Spartan, if I was a Buckeye, I'd be doing the same thing. I'd be shouting from the rooftops, like, what the hell's going on here? I'm very curious as to why Connor Stalions needs to be on a sideline at a at a game in East Lansing. Very weird. And we heard this was like the lone wolf, right? And then we have the cronies going out to the stadium. We have Jim Harbaugh's son, Venmoing Connor Stalions some sort of note, and the GIF emoji or the emoji in the notes is the okay gesture. That could be a cup of coffee from Starbucks. Don't know. And we know that Connor Stalions was in a 600-page manifesto. We know he was like a super fan to the nth degree. He told people that he was in tight with CP Chris Partridge. He was in tight with Jay Harbaugh. But then again, we hear from him again saying that nobody knew anything. So because he was such a psycho lunatic with these obsessive tendencies, like we don't know the nuances of the language in texts or these emails. You know what I mean? Like you can't just call it at face value. There's things behind it. So when he says, I'm in tight, is he really in tight, or is he just trying to pat his ego and brag to his friends that he's doing this stuff? But anyways, let's get into this article. So, former Division III coach claims Michigan's Connor Stalions paid him to record opponents' signs per report. So this isn't very lengthy, but this is again from Cameron Salerno, 7 days into the investigation last year. A former Division III football coach, and again, I had no idea that this part actually existed. I knew he allegedly paid people, but I didn't know it was a D3 coach. D3 football coach claims suspended Michigan offensive analyst Connor Stalions compensated him to record future Wolverine opponents in person. The coach, who withheld his name for privacy reasons, claims he attended 3 different Big Ten games, 2 at Penn State and 1 at Rutgers over the last 2 seasons to record signals. The footage of the signs were shared to an iPhone photo album. He says he unaware if anyone other than Stalions accessed the footage. In addition to the complimentary tickets, he claims he received a couple $100s for his services. I didn't like it, but it was a gray line, he told ESPN. You can call me naive, but no one is reading the bylaws. I'm not a contractual lawyer. I just felt like if you're not doing it, you're not trying to get ahead. The university suspended Stalions after he bought tickets for more than 30 games at 12 of the possible 13 Big Ten stadiums and 4 tickets to games featuring out-of-conference college football playoff contenders over a 3-year period. At issue, NCAA bylaw 11.6.1 off-campus in-person scouting of future opponents in the same season is prohibited. Sign stealing itself is not technically against the rules unless it involves electronic equipment to record and inform players or coaches of signals during games. Teams are given access to a great deal of film in advance of matchups in order to scout the on-field football product. Michigan coach Jim Harbaugh has denied knowledge of any attempt to steal opponents' signs and will cooperate with the NCAA investigation, he said in a statement. Harbaugh is already embroiled in a battle with NCAA over separate Level 2 violations for which he is accused misleading investigators. Now, I wanted to read that because, again, I didn't know it was a D3 coach, apparently. Maybe you guys do. But yeah, let me know where you guys are still at on this whole thing. I do. There's just so many things. Let me see. I think when we take a break before the ad, I will try to look this up real quick. But there was another article where it happened last year, and another assistant or another person like Connor from another program came in anonymously and basically defended him and said he's not the only one, and Michigan's not, Connor being Michigan, not the only one who does stuff like that. I don't know. I'll have to look at it and see if I can dig it up. But let's move on real quickly. We're cooking along here. This is going to be a long episode. Let's get into the next article. So James Franklin, in the CBS article, Big Ten Commissioner Tony Petit suspended Jim Harbaugh for the final 3 regular season games last year, right, without full investigation. Prior to that, the interim MSU head coach, Harlan Bennett, cried that the sign stealing was a health and safety risk for his players. And so, again, before we read this, my question to you listeners is, should James Franklin be suspended as well for actually putting his players at risk? I think the answer is obvious. Let's get into this one. So, let me spin you around again. So here we go. James Franklin in the news. Former Penn State doctor who alleged interference from James Franklin awarded $5.25 million in lawsuit. This is by Will Backus on May 30th. So as of this recording, it's June 2nd. So Pennsylvania-based Dauphin County Court awarded Dr. Scott Lynch, a former orthopedic consultant and a director of medicine for Penn State Athletics, $5.25 million in punitive and compensatory damages stemming from a civil lawsuit against Penn State Health. Central to Lynch's testimony was a fractious relationship with football coach James Franklin. Lynch, who alleged that his termination followed a refusal to allow a coach to interfere with his medical treatment and return to play decisions, was one of 2 doctors to speak out against Franklin and his attempts to interfere with team medical experts. Dr. Pete Seidenberg, the primary care doctor for Penn State's football team in 2014, claimed during the wrongful termination trial against the school that he was pushed by Franklin and then athletic director Sandy Barber to medically disqualify a player who attempted suicide in order to free up a scholarship. Lynch's testimony, which includes emails that he sent Franklin expressing both his disapproval of the attempted interference and a desire to reconcile, shed more light on Franklin's role in the process. Lynch even so far as to report Franklin's interference to Penn State's athletics and Penn State Health under Dr. Kevin Black, per PennLive.com. Punishment for missing treatment. According to Penn Live, irrational players failed to show up for scheduled medical treatments in 2018. The problem became so severe that Franklin ruled players who didn't show up for their appointments to be treated as full go at practices. Lynch sent an email to Franklin that railed against what he called punishment and instead suggested that players could clean the team's locker rooms. Just because they don't show up for treatment doesn't mean they're not injured, Lynch testified. According to Lynch, Franklin did not receive the email well. In a follow-up, Lynch tried to schedule a meeting to smooth things over between the two but never received a reply. Impeding team doctors. Lynch testified that he was instructed during a phone call with Franklin to abstain from using the term lateral meniscus when discussing knee injuries with players. Lynch responded that he wasn't going to lie about issues that a player may face before the call was suddenly disconnected. Lynch attempted to call back but was told Franklin had left. Lynch also alleged that Franklin would get angry when certain players were listed as unavailable, or when Penn State injury lists grew too long. Franklin also allegedly tried to prevent trainers from putting more tape on players' ankles, and has often covered the Nike logo on Penn State's team shoes, in an apparent violation of the university's marketing deal with the apparel company. Penn Live notes. Franklin's manipulation brought to light. Lynch was removed from his position on January 18, 2019, after Franklin and Penn State athletic director Sandy Barber met with Black, according to the testimony. Following his termination, Lynch met several times with Penn State athletics integrity officer Robert Borland to discuss his tenure and relationship with Franklin. Lynch raised his concerns over preserving medical autonomy from Franklin and his staff, particularly when it came to decisions surrounding player health. Lynch told Borland that Franklin would try to manipulate the situation to entice a favorable outcome in a medical decision with which he disagreed. According to Lynch, Boland shared his findings with Lynch and determined that the case was in Lynch's favor. However, Boland never officially published his report. Penn Live notes that Boland's report is off limits during the trial and that Boland has been barred from testifying about it. So give me your guys' thoughts and everything like that on the socials about this. If Jim Harbaugh can get suspended for what happened there, I know there's completely two different issues. One's about health and safety, and then the other one's about the integrity of the game. But if Jim Harbaugh gets suspended for 3 games for that, I think James Franklin should be suspended without pay until further investigation. Jamie Lato, a listener who writes in from time to time, had mentioned, I think it was in our group chat for fantasy football, said something like, this probably happens in all places or more schools, and that is 100%. I'm gonna say fact, but I would bet on it. But I think to manipulate and to get all angry in a huff when players are whether they're mentally or physically going through a situation, there's just something you just in today's age you just cannot tamper, you can't mess with. So let me know your guys' thoughts below. I had to run through that really quickly because we're pushing on time here. So when we come back, actually, I take that back. We're not done with news and notes. We're not done with news and notes. Hold on. I want to touch on one more thing too. So last time we recorded on a Saturday, and because of technical difficulties, I wasn't able to drop the episode until a few days later. So we missed it. And while we were doing that episode, the transfer portal was still being they were still bringing in guys, and the one guy I didn't mention was cornerback Ricky Johnson from UNLV. In 4 years, he tallied 4 interceptions, 3 of them in 2021, 78 tackles, 4 for loss, 10 pass breakups, and a fumble recovery. So that was one of the guys I didn't mention. So Michigan, a lot of my concern was the depth on the wide receiver and secondary side. They obviously brought enough guys in to put more meat in the back end. Michigan also hosted some top 25 recruits this past weekend. 5-star offensive line Douglas Atu, 4-star edge Marco Jones, 4-star safety Keona Winston, and 5-star wide receiver Derek Meadows. I was going to bring up the EA video game update, but we'll save that for another episode. It's not pressing, but I wanted to let you guys know that recruiting, even though it's been kind of cooled off, they have the visits coming in. They need to land one of these. One of their guys that Tony Alford was trying to get, the running backs coach, Bo Jackson, the athlete. It looks like he's being crystal balled to Ohio State, so that's kind of a bummer to hear, but hopefully they can land a couple of these guys here visiting this weekend. So when we come back, we'll get into my 5 questions about Michigan football heading into the summer. All right, Southeast Michigan Podcast. When our community wins with us, we want to ensure you've maximized your ROI. Line shopping for the best odds matters, and that is why any profitable sports bettor needs to be using multiple sports books. Thankfully, there's never been a better time to get signed up, and we're here to connect you with the best promotions industry wide. Using our link, signupexpert.com/southeast, you can get access to all the sportsbooks in your region, along with a review of each platform and its unique features. Most importantly, this page automatically connects you to the top promotions at each book, allowing you to start line shopping with an enhanced bankroll. If you want to take advantage of these benefits and support our brand, please consider signing up for your next sportsbook at signupexpert.com/southeast. All right, back for segment two. We gotta speed this up. We went a little bit longer than I anticipated, but I mean, we're talking about Connor Stalions. What can't you touch on? All right, let's get into this. So my top 5 questions about Michigan football heading into summer. All right, bear with me. I'm not on the rooftop shouting panic, panic. I don't have the cowbell going on. I don't have the amber lights blinking. But here we go. We're gonna start from 5 and work to 1. So my fifth question here is, or my first of 5 is, who will be the starting kicker? Adam Samaha, the freshman, Charlie Menser, or newcomer Matt Zavada from Arkansas State. On3 doesn't have Zavada showing enrolled at Michigan yet. Just says that he's in the portal, and he's not on the spring roster, but in fact has transferred. With 2 years of eligibility left, he has 34 of 40 field goals made, along with 71 of 72 on extra points, in which I think the one was blocked. He was a Lou Groza semifinalist as a freshman, so he was duking it out there with Jake Moody, and he has set the Sun Belt freshman points record for kicking with 81. So there you go. Charlie Menser was on, I think, the blue team, and Samaha was on the maize team. And I know Samaha had, I can't, I watched the game, but it's so fuzzy to me in some areas where I feel like he either missed one or had one blocked or something like that. Either way, it's up for grabs. And with Zavada, you know, with experience like that, who knows? To me, I would think that he might get the nod, but we'll see. Question 4: do you think Michigan loses a running back to the fall portal? Last fall portal date, open date was December 4th, 2023. So I don't think the next portal really opens up till the first week of December this year. I'm only bringing this up because the spring roster only has 6 running backs listed. Now, Donovan Edwards, Tavier Dunlap, Khalil Mullings are in there in their final season. I think Dunlap has technically 1 year of eligibility left, even though he's listed as a senior. But Benjamin Hall has showed flashes in a small sample size, while Cole Cabana has been banged up. Then you bring in Michael Capana and Jordan Marshall in the fall. Marshall has a lot of hype around him, already being Mr. Ohio. And my paranoid self is just pondering the thought that one of the underclassmen will bolt if the season doesn't provide a large enough role in their own eyes. And again, just being paranoid. So like someone like Cole Cabana, and obviously the health has been the issue, but I just I don't know. Again, just being paranoid. And I know, like I said, half that room will technically be graduated after this year, but it's just something to keep an eye on. Next, third question: the state of Michigan's wide receiver room. So knowing Morian Walker came back and who is listed at 6'4", I'm still intrigued at how this passing game works without a proven big body wideout. They got in, was it C.J. Charleston is his name from Youngstown State, and same frame, same archetype as the guys already on the roster. So Morian Walker is really the tallest guy outside of the tight ends. You know, to me, it's intriguing. The most because of the potential to utilize Colston, Loveland, like Devin Funchess. Now we kind of talked about this a couple episodes ago. So if that happens, that might be the doorway to allow another tight end to emerge. I name dropped him earlier. Zach Marshall was a well touted high school tight end, and his formula this could be his formula to get in. Now, freshman Brady Prescorn at one point was Michigan's second highest rated player in the 24 class. The rankings came out this time last year after the Jane Davis commit. Michigan was rocking, they were cooking, and they had some decommitments, and then a lot of the guys were getting re-rated, even though there was no high school football being played at the time. And Prescorn dropped a little bit. Jane Davis dropped to a 4-star when he was a 5-star in most recruiting services. It was really weird. But Brady Prescorn, I think, is going to be a valuable asset if he lives up to the hype. Number 2, can this offensive line keep running with the torch? With the entire starting offensive line gone, can the rotational players over the past 2 seasons step up and become full timers? Now, left tackle last season was a lot of feeling it out. They had Miles Hinton and Ladarius Henderson kind of battling for that job. Henderson obviously won it, went to the NFL. So now, is Miles Hinton willing to step up, or is an incoming freshman kind of get in the way, like an Evan Link, Blake Frazier, um, and I'm intrigued. Is Jeff Percy or Greg Crippen finally going to acquire a starting role? They've always been kind of in the wings, never been able to get in that starting role. But when you have so many guys, so many talented guys, somebody has to sit, and that's why for these last 3 seasons, you have Joe Moore award-winning offensive line for 2 years of that, and essentially 8 starters, and you can rotate a bunch. You can go big, heavy on either side. So I get it. I'm just throwing it out there. Can the offensive line uh, keep running with it? Next, who's going to be the quarterback? I'm just going to be honest here, but I will rule out who I think has no chance. Granted, I could be completely wrong, and by no means am I a pro quarterback evaluator. But let's start with the Jadens. Freshman Jane Davis isn't going to start, nor will he probably even see playing time this year. I I realistically think you could see a red shirt from him. Jaden Denegal won't be the starter either. Now you can't really take the spring game with, you know, you can't watch the spring game without a grain of salt, right? When we seen last year, Jaden Denegal come in at times, and he has a lot of zip on the ball, threaded the needle, and threw a really nice touchdown pass. I think it was against Nebraska. It could be wrong. It's one of those games. But his accuracy was a bit of an issue in this one. So I'm not trying to write him off just for what we've seen, but we've only seen a sample size, and I think out of this whole quarterback room, I think these two are the least likely to ever see the playing field in a starting role. Davis Warren made some nice throws in the spring game as well. Jack Tuttle has shown he's got really good leadership and command, but I believe these two are going to duke it out for the second string spot. Alex Orji, of course, has work to do like any of the other players, but I think his ability to run the football is what's going to get him the first spot. Now, you already see that in the college football gameplay trailer and in the revealed trailer that he's already the starting quarterback on the game. And it's a game, of course. And I think Sharon Moore said that he's not going to answer any more questions about the quarterback situation. But I think it's, to me, obvious that Alex Orji is going to be the starter. Fans, we can all sit around the campfire and push narratives. But let's be honest, because of his legs, I think Alex Orji is going to be at least your week 1 starter, and we'll find out how good he is after the Texas game. So that's it, folks. I appreciate you guys watching and listening. We will be back later this week for episode 50, a very special episode. Stay tuned. Peace of love. Go Blue. Talk to you next time.